Ricky Nelson was born on May 8, 1940, in Teaneck, New Jersey. His full name was Eric Hilliard Nelson, but the world came to know him simply as Ricky. He wasn't just any child. He was born into showbiz. His parents, Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, were already well-known entertainers in America. Because of that, Ricky's childhood wasn't like that of other kids. From a young age, he appeared on the radio and later on television, starring with his family in the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. The show wasn't just a hit, it became one of the most loved shows in America, showing the daily life of a happy, wholesome American family. People across the country invited the Nelsons into their living rooms every week, and young Ricky became a household name. His cute smile, soft-spoken nature, and calm personality made him extremely popular with viewers, especially young girls who quickly saw him as a teen heartthrob. As Ricky grew older, he didn't want to just be a TV star. He wanted to sing. In 1957, he released his first singular cover of the Fats Domino song, I'm Walking. To everyone's surprise, the song quickly became a big hit. That was just the beginning. He followed it up with songs like Hello, Mary Lou, Poor Little Fool, Lonesome Town, Travelin' Man, and many more. These songs weren't just popular, they defined a generation. Ricky's voice was smooth and easy to listen to, and he looked clean-cut and friendly, making rock and roll feel safe and acceptable to parents who were unsure about this new kind of music. While other rock stars seemed wild and rebellious, Ricky seemed gentle and polite. That's why millions of records were sold, and he became one of the biggest solo artists of the late 1950s and early 1960s. But Ricky's fame wasn't just about his voice. He was one of the first singers who regularly performed on TV, giving him an advantage over many others. People didn't just hear his music, they saw his face, his charm, and his personality. He made rock music more popular simply by being himself. And while many child stars faded away, Ricky worked hard to build a career that wasn't just about his past. He acted in films like Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Dean Martin, and appeared in TV shows like The Love Boat and The Hardy Boys. He had talent and a desire to grow beyond the image the public had of him. Still, fame had its costs. His life was under a microscope, and it was hard to know who to trust. But most importantly, there was one person who had strong control over his life. His mother, Ricky Nelson's mother, Harriet Nelson, wasn't just his co-star on TV, she was also one of the biggest influences on his real life. Harriet had worked in the entertainment business for years and had very clear ideas about how her family, especially Ricky, should behave in the public eye. She believed in keeping a clean and respectable image, and that often meant watching over Ricky's choices, especially when it came to dating. Many of the girls Ricky liked were not approved by Harriet. She thought they weren't good enough for her son or could distract him from his career. While some people might say she was just being a protective mother, others felt she was too involved and made Ricky feel like he couldn't make his own decisions. As Ricky grew older, he tried to break free from this control. He wanted to explore his music and try new things. But the world was changing quickly. In the mid-1960s, rock music was going through big changes. Bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were introducing new sounds. What had worked in the 1950s was starting to feel old-fashioned. Ricky could have tried to copy those new trends, but he didn't. Instead, he decided to go in a different direction. He formed a new group called the Stone Canyon Band and began to create what we now call country rock. At the time, it wasn't a very popular genre, but Ricky believed in it. In 1972, he released a song called Garden Party, which became a big success. The song was about a real concert he had performed at Madison Square Garden, where fans only wanted to hear his old hits and didn't care about his new music. In the song, Ricky shared a powerful message. You can't please everyone, so you've got to please yourself. Even though Garden Party was a hit, Ricky continued to face difficulties. The music industry can be harsh. People forget stars quickly, and Ricky was no longer a teenager. The attention he once got wasn't there anymore. He still had fans and continued to perform, but he wasn't selling millions of records like he once did. He acted in TV movies and made guest appearances, but nothing brought him the fame of his earlier days. He also struggled with money. There were reports that he had tax issues, and wasn't earning as much as people assumed. It was a sad reality for someone who had once been on top of the world. And then there were rumors, whispers about drug use, wild behavior, and problems behind closed doors. Whether they were true or not, these rumors followed him. They affected how people saw him. Even when he was just trying to make a living and support his family, Ricky never stopped performing. He loved music too much. He would travel from city to city, performing in small venues and fairs. He didn't need massive fame anymore. He just wanted to do what he loved. But life on the road isn't easy, especially when you're trying to hold on to a past that the world keeps trying to forget. And then came the tragic day that shocked the world and brought the Ricky Nelson mystery to the surface. On December 31st, 1985, Ricky Nelson's life came to a sudden and heartbreaking end. He was flying in a small plane with his fiancée, Helen Blair, and several members of his band. They were headed to a New Year's Eve concert in Dallas, Texas. But something went terribly wrong. Just before reaching their destination, the plane crashed near DeKalb, Texas. Everyone on board, except the pilot and co-pilot, died in the crash. The news spread quickly, and fans all over the world were shocked. Ricky Nelson, the sweet boy who had grown up in front of America's eyes, was gone at just 45 years old. At first, there were many questions about what caused the crash. Some reports claimed it was due to drug use on the plane. The media jumped on the story, saying Ricky had been using freebase cocaine and that it may have caused a fire. But these claims were later proven to be false. Investigations showed that the fire was likely caused by a faulty heater in the cabin. There was no strong evidence of drug use in Ricky's system. Still, the damage had been done. The false stories made headlines, and many people believed them. For years, the truth was hidden behind rumors and gossip. Ricky's name was unfairly linked to things he may not have done, and that became part of the mystery around his death. The real tragedy is that Ricky Nelson died doing what he loved, traveling to perform for his fans. He wasn't chasing fame anymore, simply sharing his music. But because of the way his story ended, many people forget the good he did. You forget the beautiful songs, the kind-hearted man, and the boy who lit up their TV screens. The story wasn't just about being a teen idol. It was about trying to grow, to change, and to be taken seriously in a world that often refuses to let stars evolve. Today, when people talk about Ricky Nelson, they often mention his early hits or the crash that took his life. But there's more to his story. He was a true artist, someone who stayed true to himself, even when it was hard. He faced judgment, control, and rumors, but he kept singing. And that's what made him special. The mystery of Ricky Nelson isn't just about how he died, it's about how someone so loved could be so misunderstood in the end. Ricky Nelson was more than just a teen idol. He was a legend of early rock and roll, a television star, and a cultural icon who captured hearts across generations. Born into the famous Nelson family, Ricky first gained fame on the show The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, performing alongside his parents and older brother. While many child stars struggled to transition into adult fame, Ricky managed to reinvent himself as a serious musician, creating timeless hits like Travelin' Man and Hello, Mary Lou. He became known for his calm charm, good looks, and ability to speak to audiences through his music. But behind all the fame and success was a man living under the pressure of public expectations, personal struggles, and a deep desire to be taken seriously as an artist, not just a product of Hollywood. Ricky's personal life was equally watched by the media. In 1963, he married Kristen Harmon, the daughter of football legend Tom Harmon and actress Elise Knox. Their wedding was a major event, often described as a Hollywood fairy tale. Fans saw it as the perfect union to families rich in entertainment history coming together. Ricky and Kristen would go on to have 4 children. Their daughter Tracy Nelson followed in Ricky's footsteps and became an actress. Their twin sons, Gunnar and Matthew, formed the rock band Nelson, which had huge success in the 1990s with the song Can't Live Without Your Love and Affection. Their youngest son, Sam, also showed interest in the arts but stayed mostly away from public life. From the outside, their family looked perfect, the legacy of talent continuing into the next generation. But behind closed doors, things were far from ideal. As the years passed, Ricky and Kristen's relationship began to fall apart. His busy touring schedule and desire to stay relevant in the changing music world kept him away from home for long periods. Meanwhile, Kristen struggled with the stress of managing a home and raising 4 children while dealing with her own personal challenges. There were rumors of emotional distance, lifestyle differences, and even infidelity. The love they once shared seemed to slowly fade, and tension built between them. Their separation in the late 1970s eventually led to a painful divorce in 1982. It was a hard time for both of them. But they remained committed to their children, trying their best to create stability despite their split. For Ricky, the divorce had a deep emotional impact. Some say you can hear his sadness in the music he made during that time, songs filled with reflection, longing, and quiet pain. Even through hardship, Ricky continued to perform, hoping to connect with his fans and rediscover his musical spark. On December 31st, 1985, Ricky Nelson boarded a plane with his fiancée, Helen Blair, and several members of his band. They were traveling to Dallas, Texas, for a New Year's Eve concert. The plane was a vintage Douglas DC-3, an old model that had seen better days. Ricky had used the aircraft for his tours, and while it seemed charming and nostalgic on the outside, inside, it had serious mechanical issues that many were unaware of. During the flight, tragedy struck. The plane caught fire in the air and crashed near DeKalb, Texas, while the 2 pilots managed to survive by escaping through the cockpit. Everyone in the cabin, including Ricky, Helen, and 5 band members, was killed. The world was shocked. News of Ricky Nelson's death spread quickly, and fans mourned the loss of a beloved artist. But from the very beginning, something about the crash didn't sit right. The cause seemed unclear. Was it a tragic accident, or was there more to the story? At first, officials believed the fire was caused by a problem with the plane's heater. There were also rumors that the fire may have started due to drug use on board, specifically freebasing cocaine, a method that involves using an open flame. These stories gained attention after reports claimed that drug paraphernalia had been found in the wreckage. Although toxicology reports showed no drugs or alcohol in Ricky's system, and no direct evidence linked the fire to drug use, the rumors were enough to damage his reputation in the eyes of some. Fans who had once adored him were left with questions. Why would this happen? Why was Ricky Nelson flying in a plane that wasn't properly checked for safety? For decades, the truth remained hidden behind official reports and media speculation. The mystery of Ricky's final flight became a haunting part of his legacy. Over time, people refused to let the mystery go unsolved. Aviation experts, journalists, and investigators continued digging into the case. Years later, new information finally came to light. Detailed reports from aviation mechanics, interviews with the surviving pilots, and old maintenance records showed a very disturbing truth. The DC-3 Ricky was flying in had a known history of mechanical problems, especially with its heater. In fact, the heater had already caused problems on previous flights, and complaints had been made about it. Instead of being properly repaired, it was jury-rigged with makeshift fixes that did not meet safety standards. The heater was installed directly beneath the cabin floor and was dangerously close to flammable materials. When it malfunctioned, during that New Year's Eve flight, it sparked a fire that filled the cabin with smoke and toxic fumes in minutes. The plane had no proper fire extinguisher and no fire-resistant insulation to slow the spread. Those inside had no way to escape. According to forensic reports, Ricky and the others likely died from smoke inhalation before the crash even occurred. This wasn't just an accident, it was a preventable disaster. The most heartbreaking part of Ricky Nelson's story isn't just the crash, it's that the crash didn't have to happen. The people in charge of maintaining and flying that plane knew it had serious safety issues. They had warnings, they had chances to fix the problems. But instead of doing what was right, they chose shortcuts. They chose convenience over responsibility. And because of that, Ricky Nelson, Helen Blair, and 5 others lost their lives in a tragedy that should never have happened. It's a sad reminder of how even famous people, even legends, can fall victim to the carelessness of others. Ricky didn't die because of drugs or reckless choices. He died because someone failed to protect him. Ricky Nelson left behind a powerful legacy, one filled with music, family, and memories. His children continue to carry his name and talent forward. His fans still listen to his songs and remember the joy he brought to their lives. But the truth about how he died adds a layer of pain to his story. It reminds us that sometimes the answers we search for don't bring peace, they bring more questions, more anger, and more sorrow. The mystery is finally solved, but the sadness remains. Ricky Nelson's life was one of success, love, struggle, and creativity. His death, however, became a symbol of negligence and lost trust. And while we can't change what happened, we can remember him for who he truly was, a talented, gentle soul who deserved so much better than the ending he got.